Welcome to Mind Over Matter, where we unlock the secrets to scaling success without the struggle. Today, I'm joined by the brilliant Dr. Nona Djavid, business mentor, speaker, and the creator of the One Week Month lifestyle. She's built a life of abundance by aligning mindset, energy, and strategy, helping entrepreneurs break free from the hustle culture and quantum leap their success. Dr. Nona, I'm excited for this conversation. Let's start with the big questions. Why do so many entrepreneurs believe that success requires endless hustle?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So, if you look back, anybody listening in, if you look back to your childhood, probably most of the things that we have heard by a lot when it comes down to success and worthiness and achievement or living a beautiful life or anything like that, the words and sentences that we heard were mostly something like money doesn't grow on trees. You have to work really hard to get somewhere to have any meaningful level of success. People have seen and watched their parents criticize others who have more than them, more wealth, seemingly more successful. There's a lot of cultural, and just societal consciousness out there of the world that basically tells you a requirement for success is massive hustle. And oftentimes that leads us to completely burn out. And then we wear that as a badge of honor. We think that that's a really good thing. And that actually used to be me. I used to think that way. I used to think that if I burnt out and if I was doing all the things, and hey, that a side product of that was my successful business, then I've done it. Then I have checked the box. However, that's not the reality of things, or that's at least not the healthiest way to go about it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you challenge the idea that working harder leads to success. So why do you think so many entrepreneurs fall into that trap?
I think entrepreneurs fall into that trap because they don't know any different. So, identity of a successful entrepreneur is in how much work they are putting into it. The other piece to the equation is um, wrapping up self-worth and adding that into the amount of work that you are putting into your business, into your life. As an example, for example, for me, I grew up, when I was a little girl, and I was a first child. So there was a lot of pressure already with the positioning of how I was born. But on top of it, every time that I would do something for my parents, every time I would do any level of performance, I would get an A, I would work really hard at something or succeed at something, then I was rewarded. And so when that happens is your entire self-worth and validation is actually built on the the work that you have put into it. So then of course when I first went into entrepreneurship, it was like the more I do, the more I will receive. The more I put into it, the harder I work, the more I hustle, the earlier I wake up, the better my morning routine is, all of those things, right? If I do all of those things, then I'm going to have better results. And there's the contrary to this, which is working less and having, more impact, hustling less or putting in less hours and having more freedom of money, of time, of energy, of resources, and all of those things. The contrary of that is extremely ironic with everything, and it goes against everything that we are taught. The hustle culture has been extremely strong and pushing for this, and it happens to be a very masculine part of the culture, right? And not in a bad way. We both need the feminine and the masculine. But that the entrepreneurship has been driven mainly by this masculine energy of having to push to make the thing happen. So I have extremely successful entrepreneurs that I work with, and I have a mastermind called 1 Week a Month Mastermind. Now, inside of the mastermind, if you tell one of my entrepreneurs, even though that's what they signed up for, and even though they want freedom, even though they are excited by the idea of working less and generating more and impacting more and contributing more, if I told them to take a day off, or if I told them to take a week off, or if I told them, to cut their hours or anything like that, it would create a complete panic. It's almost like, one, I don't know what to do with myself. My nervous system, they would tell me, and I've had people literally give me these words, I will go into a panic attack if I didn't work 1 week. And this is not so much that they need to, it's more like their nervous system is just not regulated to that next level of freedom. Most of them have watched their parents, their grandparents, everybody around them either hustle or work really, really hard with or without results. So that's all they have known. So the nervous system is just really comfortable at that level. In order to create the opposite of this, which is creating a life or a business that comes with ease and abundance and, a healthy level of work, but also a healthy level of life. In order to do that, you have to make it safe for the nervous system to feel the freedom, to have the abundance. Most people have a thermostat. They get to a certain number, they get to a certain level, and then they self-sabotage back to exactly where they were, because that's where their thermostat is set up. And oftentimes this is like, oh, well, something external happened in my life and now I'm back to where I was before. No, it wasn't external. You just happened to be in that level of consciousness and you brought that external XYZ into your reality to bring you back to exactly where you were before, whether it's working hard or whatever. And most of this is a neurological wiring that needs to be undone.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, what was your own breaking point? When did you realize that hustle wasn't the answer?
I was, this was about over a decade ago, maybe, yeah, over a decade ago, I started to get into into the journey and really figuring out. I'd always been into personal development since the age of 12. But I think over a decade ago, I got to a point where I had a breaking point. I remember one of these moments I'll share with you. I had just had my firstborn. He's now 9. He's about to be 10. So in this moment, I just had him. I'd built this really massive business at the time, and I um I had 13 employees. It was doing really well. Life on paper looked really amazing. I was married. I just had my first child. My business was growing. I had all these employees. I had all these friends. Everything on paper looked really, really good. Um, and then I remember I put my son to sleep for a nap. I took a phone call with my employees, and just like on any other day, we went over some numbers. And then I walked myself into the closet, and I remember sitting, I shut down the closet door, I shut down the lights, and I sat there, and I sat there against the wall, and I held my knees to my chest, and I started sobbing, because I had felt all the pressure coming down on me. Of course, I was also in postpartum depression, so there were a lot of hormones that were going on, but it was beyond that. I think I had, in that moment in the closet, I had this moment of feeling like I've been doing the thing that society, the matrix, everything I've been told that would bring you a level of success. Work hard, go to Berkeley, get a degree, open a business, get married, have kids. Like I had checked off literally everything that was meant to bring me success and happiness. And here I was trapped, feeling trapped, having shutting down the door of the closet and sitting there and sobbing. And I had to like muffle the noise to not wake up my newborn, and completely unhappy, unsatisfied, exhausted by all the pressures of life. And even though this beautiful life that I had built for myself, including the business, was everybody's dream, it was as if I was a complete slave to it. I didn't have freedom of time. I didn't have freedom of energy. If I'd left my business, I'd have to come back to it and just kind of put out some fires. So it was like I built this life with all these bricks around me and trapped myself into this quote unquote beautiful life that everybody wanted. And at that point, I had a moment, and in that moment, I had a glimpse of a vision. And this is not the first time I've had this vision, but this was uh this time it felt different when I had this vision. So this vision I've had multiple times throughout my life, but I had this vision of having the freedom of not just financially, that didn't matter at that time, but time and energy and mental freedom and resources to be able to have a really big impact in the world, to be able to help humans recognize their potential. And personally, for myself, part of the vision was building a business or reformatting the existing business I had at the time to work part-time and generate the profits I was generating. So, and to travel and to world school my kid and my future kids, and to be in love. And I had some parts of the vision were very personal, part of the vision were very like from a business perspective. And I saw the vision, I saw a glimpse of the vision in just what felt like a second, but it was a very long second. And I remember what was different about this time was that I made a decision. Instead of saying, "Look at you, you're sitting in the closet, you are sobbing while your infant is taking a nap, you feel trapped, you've built this thing that you're so unhappy. How are you even going to get there?" Or that is not possible for you. Or, the voice that would creep in and say, "You're not worthy of that life. You're not worthy of that level of impact." I decided instead of doing that, instead of going into that space, I was going to say yes to the vision. I didn't know how I was going to get there. I didn't even know if I was going to get there, but I was going to continuously say yes to that vision. And I remember walking out of the closet, and even though it was dark and it was a really sad space for me, especially that day, walking out, it felt like it was this womb that had given me an opportunity for rebirth. So I made that decision, and from that decision, I ended up, I built my first part-time $1 million business, and then I multiplied. I opened up 3 other businesses that were generating pretty much passive income. And then after that, we're now a decade later, tapped into, as I learned how to collapse time while I quantum leap in my business and in my life. As I learned how to do that, then in the past few years, it's like, okay, what about a 1 week a month lifestyle? What if I can scale and grow my businesses with even more ease? And what if I can collapse time and squeeze and delegate and delete and make sure I have all the systems in place so that I can actually, grow my business within the week and a month, and then have the option to contribute, to volunteer, to be with my children, to travel, do all the things I want to do in the rest of those 3 weeks. And of course, having the option to putting more work into the business as well. So that's how the journey began. And that was a really pivotal moment, that sort of closet moment, if you would. And as I and to kind of wrap up the closet moment, right now I get to live that life and I get to play in it. I live between Southern California and Italy. I travel, I world school my kids. I have the amount of impact I have now with ease, the kind of influence and impact that I want to have on humanity is so much greater. It's not where I want it to be. I want to continue to grow this, but it's so much greater than what I've ever been able to experience with working the way that I was working in my old life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that realization is huge. So many people are stuck in the grind mindset, fearing that slowdown means losing progress.
Yeah, I think it's a neurological thing. Like if you think about it, if you are, the best example of this is Pavlov's dog, right? In Pavlov's dog. So the dog comes in, there's a cookie, the cookie is there, they ring the bell at the same time as the cookie is there, right? And the dog starts to obviously have some saliva as a result of the cookie. But the cookie happens at the same time as the doorbell. So, and they keep doing that for a while until the dog is wired to have saliva that goes together with the cookie and with the doorbell. Now, we're also animals, in case we forgot, we're also animals. So, then what they do is they take the cookie away and they ring the bell. And when you ring the bell, the dog has saliva. Why? Even without the cookie, without the physiological influence of the cookie, the dog has saliva. And this is again, it's repeated, I think, in this space over and over again. The neurons that fire together, they wire together. So those two neurons, they have been connected now and they're integrated. And every time there's a doorbell, now there's going to be saliva, right? And now there are studies that say this is generational. Like if you look at the next generation, and they've done studies on flies where they put them in a flies and they put them in a jar and they keep them in the jar. And so the flies think this is the extent of which they can fly, right? Like say whatever the length of the jar is, and then they take the top of the jar off after a while, and those flies don't go anywhere. They just keep flying within the parameters of the jar because that's what they have known. That's what their neurology is now wired. Those are their nervous system has figured out this is the container for you. And what they found is that in the next generation of these flies, the parents that are born also end up having that limitation or carrying that limitation. Why? Because it's a nervous system regulated to that container of the jar. So my nervous system was regulated to the struggle. And I think every single entrepreneur, every single person who is growth minded, looking back, you'll be able to quickly take a look and see that your nervous system is regulated to the struggle. I mean, we see this in relationships. People will go, they get into the same relationship over and over and over again. And I don't mean same relationship. I mean, same dynamic, different person, same relationship. They do that. Why? Because that's what they have experienced in the past. That's what the nervous system is comfortable with. That's how the neurons are firing together, just like the saliva and the doorbell. Now, to unhook from that, you'll have to give your brain and your nervous system something totally different. And this is where I teach the unreasonable life vision. So you give that totally unreasonable thing to your brain and to your nervous system. And when you do that, now all of a sudden your nervous system goes, oh, there's safety in freedom. There's safety in abundance. There's safety in peace or ease. I am no longer addicted to, although that I don't think that ever goes away, but it starts to unhook from the addiction to the struggle, from the addiction to doing more and proving your self-worth, and it moves into a space of ease. And you can only do that by repetition in your mind's eye. And I have a process that I teach. It's a 4-step process. These are the steps that I personally took or have taken over the past decade or so to quantum leap my life out of the closet. I've gone through a divorce, I've gone through sales of businesses, opening up businesses, and now I get to teach people. And I've had so many personal, professional business quantum leaps in my life, now leading to, the 1 week a month lifestyle, that looking back, every single one of those quantum leaps have had the same 4 elements. And I teach these 4 elements, and I have free trainings. Anybody who's listening, if you want to reach out to me or connect with me I'm on Instagram. So if you want to reach out to me there, connect with me, tell me you learned something in here, I'll be happy to share that, because we won't have time to go over the steps. But the very first step in the process is actually sitting down and contemplating, what is it that you want to experience in your life and in your business? How much ease? What would that mean? What's a day in the life of you in that next level life look like? What are you doing with your free time? And getting the nervous system to wire ease with success instead of what we have been doing. When you do that, now there is, there's saliva and there's no cookie and there's the doorbell, which basically means your reticular activating system is now going to be able to see the opportunities and attract the opportunities that are going to take you to that next level.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, working 1 week a month sounds like a dream. How does it actually work?
Yeah, totally. It's funny you say it sounds like a dream. Most entrepreneurs will say, how, like, I don't want to work that middle. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna be in trouble if I work all of the rest of those weeks. And I think usually I say 1 week of lifestyle or your version of it. It doesn't have to be the way I do it. As a matter of fact, I encourage everybody to find an authentic way to your level of freedom. For some entrepreneurs, it's taking a Friday off. For some entrepreneurs, it's taking 1 week off every month. For some entrepreneurs, is cutting their hours in half and seeing that they can still be profitable and things can be easy and life can be enjoyable. So, and honestly, for some entrepreneurs, is cutting down the hours so that they can put time and energy back into their businesses, because they're constantly in the business instead of having the time to work on the business. So I think there's different variations of it. But if you're asking personally for me, I have 2 days a week where I take phone calls and do the work. The bulk of the work is done in 2 days. And for me, I always love my Mondays and Tuesdays. So those are the days that I work from 8:30 to about 2:30, 3 o'clock. Pacific. I usually work the Pacific hours, even though I live in Italy. So it's those 2 days. And then the rest of the time is playtime for me. I get to choose if I want to do a podcast. I get to choose if I want to create content. I get to choose if I want to do anything extra. And majority of that time is now spent with obviously my kids when they're home, traveling. As I mentioned, I work school my kids. So we do a ton of adventure. We do a ton of contribution. It leaves us a lot of, both myself and my fiance, a lot of time and space and resources to be able to also give back to our community and out to the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, you say that to grow your business, you have to expand your identity. What does that transformation look like?
Mm, yeah. So, and I know we don't have too much time. So this is step 2 in the process. So step 1 is the unreasonable life vision. So coming up with kind of vision that is going to take you to that next level that's so outside the box. That's the first step. The second step in this process is going to be expanding the identity, like you mentioned. And what that means is figuring out who is the version of you, the future version of you that is already living that next level life. So for me, it was like going from working in my business and the way I was showing up in my previous marriage or whatever the case may have been. Who do I need to become for this next level relationship? Who do I need to become for this next level business? Who do I need to become for this next level of freedom, to be okay with freedom, to have peace within freedom, and all of those types of things? And really contemplating on the next level identity. And there's so much research around this. There's research that says if you can have a relationship with the future version of you, you are going to make better decisions about your future. They have long-term studies around this. So this is all backed. Everything I teach is backed by neurology and science. And it sounds woo, but all of this, any level of quantum leap, actually, it either has quantum physics in it or a lot of neurology. But that's the expansion of the identity.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, if someone is feeling stuck at their current level, what's the fastest way to shift into their next level self?
I think the fastest way, and it happens to be where most people get stuck and not move forward, I know it sounds ironic, is actually sitting down and determining what is it that you want and making sure that that is not a borrowed dream, that that is an authentically yours kind of dream. And that's where most people won't get to. They'll say, I don't know what I want. Or if they're entrepreneurs, oftentimes they have SMART goals, but they don't have a vision, an entire vision of where they are headed. That's the first place. And the second place that I think can speed up, because you're asking me the fastest, and again, it happens to be where most people get stuck, is eliminating, getting rid of the things that are in the way. And I don't think most people are comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So, Dr. Nona, this was such an eye opening conversation. You have shown that success isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter, in alignment with who we truly are.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. And to everyone listening, what's one belief about success that you're ready to let go of? Let's start there. And if you love this conversation, connect with Dr. Nona through the links in the show notes. And if today's insights sparked something in you, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Until next time, remember, your next level success is already waiting for you. You just have to step into it.